Marcus Chen stepped off the transport ship with a large metal crate floating behind him. The young human looked around the docking bay of Kepler Station with wide eyes. Everything was so clean and bright. The walls curved in ways that Earth buildings never did, and the air smelled like flowers he had never seen before. "Welcome to the Galactic Xenobiology Institute," said a tall, thin alien with blue skin and 4 arms. "I am Professor Veltar. You must be our first human student." Marcus nodded and smiled. "Yes, sir. Thank you for accepting me into the program." Professor Veltar's large eyes looked at the floating crate. "And what is this? And what is this?" "My emotional support animal," Marcus said. "His name is Rex. I hope that's okay. The paperwork said I could bring him." The professor's face softened. Most species in the galaxy understood the need for companion animals. His own people kept small, singing creatures that helped calm their nerves. "Of course. We have prepared special housing for you in the dormitory." As they walked through the station, Marcus saw aliens he had only read about in books. There were the crystal-like Zephyrians who tinkled when they moved, the floating Vorthans who spoke in musical tones, the furry Thylorians, with their big, gentle eyes. The dormitory was a large building with rooms for students from many worlds. Each room was built to match what different species needed. Marcus's room had Earth-normal gravity and air. In one corner sat a large glass enclosure with heating elements and a small water feature. "This should work perfectly for your companion," Professor Veltar said. "What kind of creature is Rex?" Marcus set the crate down carefully. "He's a Canis lupus, a wolf. But don't worry, he's very well trained." The professor wrote something on his tablet. Most alien species had no idea what Earth animals were like. He assumed a wolf was probably some kind of small, cute creature like the companion animals he knew. After the professor left, Marcus opened the crate. A large, gray animal stepped out and stretched. Rex was beautiful, with thick fur, pointed ears, and bright yellow eyes. He was the size of a large dog, with strong muscles under his coat. "Good boy," Marcus said, scratching behind Rex's ears. "Welcome to our new home." Rex sniffed around the room and then settled into his enclosure. The space was bigger than his old home, with soft bedding and places to hide. Within an hour, Marcus heard a soft knock on his door. He opened it to find 3 alien students standing outside. "Hello," said a Thylorian with soft brown fur. "I am Zexta. We heard you had a companion animal. We wanted to meet him." Behind Zexta stood a crystal being that sparkled in the light. "I am Prism," it said in a voice like wind chimes. "We love animals." The third alien was a Vorthan, floating a few inches off the ground. "I am Singing Wind. My people believe animals bring peace to the heart." Marcus smiled. "Come in. Rex is pretty tired from the trip, but I'm sure he'd like to meet you." The 3 aliens followed Marcus to the enclosure. Rex was lying down, but his ears perked up when he saw the visitors. His yellow eyes watched them carefully. "Oh, he's beautiful," Zexta whispered. "So big." "Meat, mostly," Marcus said. "But he's very gentle. On Earth, we've been companions for thousands of years." Prism's crystalline form shimmered with interest. "May we bring him some food tomorrow? On our worlds, we feed our companions sweet fruits and nectar." Marcus almost laughed but stopped himself. "That's very kind, but Rex has a special diet. I'll take care of feeding him." For the next few days, Marcus settled into life at the Institute. His classes were fascinating. He learned about the biology of dozens of alien species. He studied how different worlds created different kinds of life. His dormitory neighbors visited often. They loved watching Rex through the glass. The wolf seemed calm and lazy most of the time. He would sleep for hours, sometimes playing with a toy that Marcus had brought from Earth. "He seems so peaceful," Singing Wind said one evening. Human companion animals must be very different from ours. Zexta brought small flowers and fruits every day, hoping to make Rex happy. The wolf would sniff them politely, but never eat them. He's probably just shy, she said. Marcus didn't correct their assumptions. He found it amusing how they saw Rex as a cute pet. On Earth, people understood what wolves really were. But these aliens came from worlds where the biggest predator might be the size of a rabbit. During mealtimes in the cafeteria, Marcus attracted attention. Other students were curious about the first human at the institute. They asked about Earth, about human culture, about his pet. Humans must be very sensitive beings, said a professor from Andromeda. Keeping companion animals shows a deep emotional nature. Marcus just nodded and smiled. He didn't mention that humans had originally domesticated wolves to help them hunt other animals. He didn't explain that Rex's ancestors had once been the apex predators of Earth's forests. Rex seems very well behaved, said Prism one day. How did your people learn to train such large animals? Practice, Marcus said simply. Lots and lots of practice. At night, when his alien friends went back to their rooms, Marcus would take Rex out of his enclosure. The wolf would stretch his legs and play with Marcus in the larger space of the room. Rex was always quiet, as if he understood they were guests here. Good boy, Marcus would whisper, wrestling gently with the powerful animal. Tomorrow we start Predator Studies class. That should be interesting. Rex's tail wagged, and his yellow eyes seemed to gleam with anticipation. Professor Kethmori's Advanced Predator-Prey Dynamics class was held in a large lecture hall with curved walls and soft lighting. The professor was an Etherian, with delicate features and thin, almost transparent wings that folded against her back. Her species had evolved from creatures that ate flower nectar and had never known the fear of being hunted. Marcus sat in the middle row with his new friends. Zexta took careful notes on her tablet, while Prism recorded everything with internal memory crystals. Singing Wind floated gently, absorbing information through methods Marcus didn't fully understand. Today we will study hunting behaviors, Professor Kethmori announced. This is important for understanding ecosystem balance across different worlds. She activated a holographic display showing various alien creatures. Most of them looked harmless to Marcus. Small, slow-moving things, with tiny teeth, or no teeth at all. The Rigelian spike tail, the professor said, pointing to a creature about the size of a house cat, is considered one of the most dangerous predators on Rigel Prime. Notice how it uses its tail to stun small prey. Marcus watched the hologram show the spike tail slowly approaching a plant-eating creature. The hunt took several minutes, with lots of warning signs and noise. The prey animal had plenty of time to escape but seemed too confused to run. Fascinating, whispered Zexta. So violent. Marcus tilted his head. This was considered violent? On Earth, house cats were more efficient killers than what he was seeing. Now, the professor continued, let's discuss pack hunting. This is when multiple predators work together. The next hologram showed something like wolves, but they moved slowly and made loud calls to coordinate. Their prey was a large, sluggish animal that barely tried to escape. The key to pack hunting, Professor Kethmori explained, is communication and patience. These predators must signal their intentions clearly and move in predictable patterns. Marcus raised his hand. Excuse me, Professor, but wouldn't it be more effective if they stayed silent and used visual signals instead? The classroom went quiet. Professor Kethmori's large eyes blinked slowly. Eye contact, Marcus said simply. Body language. If you can see each other, you don't need to make noise. Sound warns the prey. Several students turned to stare at Marcus. His casual tone when discussing hunting tactics made some of them uncomfortable. Interesting theory, the professor said. But such coordination would require incredible intelligence and social bonding. Not really, Marcus replied. Just practice and trust. Singing Wind's musical voice carried a note of concern. Marcus, you speak of these tactics as if you understand them personally. Marcus realized he might be saying too much. I just read a lot about Earth predators. Academic interest, you know. But his alien classmates had started noticing other things about their human friend. The way he moved through the corridors was different from them. While they walked openly and made noise, Marcus moved quietly. After those while to the word. Information. His footsteps were soft, even in heavy boots. Zexta had prey species instincts that went back millions of years. Lately, when Marcus entered a room, those instincts whispered warnings. Something about the way his eyes moved, always checking exits and corners. Something about how he positioned himself where he could see everything. Marcus, she asked one day after class, on Earth, what did humans evolve from? Marcus paused. Apes, mostly. Primates. Were they predators? Marcus thought carefully about his answer. They were survivors. In the following weeks, the class studied more hunting behaviors. Marcus's insights became increasingly detailed and accurate. When other students struggled to understand ambush tactics, Marcus could explain exactly how predators thought and moved. The key is patience, he said during one discussion. You wait until the prey is distracted or tired. Then you move fast and commit completely. Hesitation gets you killed. The way he said, gets you killed, made everyone shiver. Professor Kethmori began asking Marcus to elaborate on his theories. Your understanding of predator psychology is remarkable for someone who comes from a civilized world. Earth has a lot of wildlife documentaries, Marcus said with a smile. Meanwhile, Rex was growing larger. Marcus had to request special food from the station commissary. Raw protein sources that made the alien food workers nervous. Your companion has quite an appetite, said the crystalline food supervisor. What kind of creature grows so fast? He's still young, Marcus explained. Earth animals develop differently than yours. Rex's enclosure had been upgraded twice. What started as a small glass box was now a room-sized space with reinforced walls. Marcus said it was for Rex's comfort, but some students noticed the locks on the outside were heavier than necessary for a pet. During study groups, Marcus would sometimes mention Rex needed exercise time and would leave early. When asked about it, he said Rex needed to work off energy and that it was better to do it in private. What kind of exercise? Prism asked. Just playing, Marcus said. Games, training exercises. But Zexta had noticed scratch marks on Marcus's arms and hands. When she asked about them, Marcus just laughed. Rex gets excited sometimes. He doesn't know his own strength. The marks looked like claw marks. Deep ones. One evening, Singing Wind was floating past Marcus's room when she heard sounds from inside. Not normal sounds. There was heavy breathing. The sound of something large moving quickly. And what sounded like growling. She stopped outside the door, her people's enhanced hearing picking up details. The growling was deep and wild. But mixed with it was Marcus's voice. Calm and controlling. Easy, boy. Focus. Good. Now wait. Then silence. Then the sound of something heavy hitting the floor. Good. Very good. That's enough for tonight. When Marcus appeared for breakfast the next morning, he had a new bandage on his hand and what looked like a bruise on his shoulder. Are you injured? Zexta asked with concern. Just training, Marcus said, eating his meal calmly. His alien friends exchanged worried looks. What kind of training left the trainer injured? What kind of pet needed behaviors that required such control? But Marcus seemed so normal, so friendly. He helped them with homework, shared stories about Earth, and always spoke kindly about Rex. It was getting harder to ignore the feeling that there was something they didn't understand about their human friend. Professor Kethmori stood at the front of the larger laboratory, her thin wings fluttering with excitement. The space was 3 times bigger than their normal classroom, with open areas for movement and observation platforms around the edges. "Today we will have live demonstrations," she announced to the class. "You will see real predator behaviors in a controlled environment. This will help you understand what we have been studying in theory." The students murmured with interest. Most had never seen actual predatory behavior, even from the mild creatures of their own worlds. "I have asked several of you to bring examples of hunting species from your planets," the professor continued. "These are all domesticated and safe, but they will show us basic predatory instincts." Zexta had brought what her people called a razor moth. It was a beautiful creature about the size of Marcus's hand, with wings that shimmered like metal. On Thylor, it was considered the most dangerous predator, capable of cutting through plant stems with its sharp wing edges. Prism carried a container with a death swimmer, a fish-like creature that could survive in multiple liquid environments. On the crystalline homeworld, it was feared for its ability to live in the life-giving pools that Prism's people needed. Both creatures moved slowly and seemed almost sleepy in the laboratory setting. "Excellent examples," Professor Kethmori said. "Marcus, I believe you volunteered to bring your companion?" Marcus nodded. "Rex is in his transport carrier. Should I bring him in now?" Please do. I am excited to see an Earth predator, even a domesticated one." Marcus left the room and returned a few minutes later with a large, wheeled cage. Through the mesh sides, the class could see Rex clearly for the first time under the laboratory's bright lights. Several students gasped. Rex was much larger than they had realized. In the soft lighting of Marcus's room, he had seemed big but manageable. Under the harsh laboratory lights, his true size was obvious. He was as long as Marcus was tall, with massive shoulders and a thick neck. His fur was darker than they remembered, gray and black with lighter patches. His ears were pointed and constantly moving, tracking every sound. But it was his eyes that made several students step back involuntarily. Rex's yellow eyes were bright and alert. They moved constantly, studying every person in the room, every exit, every detail. They were not the sleepy, gentle eyes of a pet. They were the eyes of something wild. "Magnificent," Professor Kethmori breathed. "Look at that bone structure. Those muscles. Earth evolution certainly produced impressive specimens." Marcus opened the cage door. Rex stepped out calmly, but his head was up and his nose was working. He was smelling everything, learning the space. "He's so big," Zexta whispered, her prey instincts making her want to run. "And those teeth," Prism added, noticing the white fangs visible when Rex panted. Rex was indeed impressive. His movements were fluid and controlled. When he walked, his paws made no sound on the laboratory floor. His tail was relaxed but ready, and his ears swiveled to track everything happening around him. Marcus held what looked like a simple leash, but several students noticed it was much thicker and stronger than anything they had seen before. "Now," Professor Kethmori said, moving to the center of the room, "we will observe basic searching and hunting behaviors. These domesticated animals retain their instincts, but lack the drive to actually harm anything." She gestured for the students to move to the observation platforms around the edges of the room. "Marcus, if you would allow Rex to demonstrate natural searching behavior." Marcus nodded. "Rex, search." The change in Rex was immediate and dramatic. His casual, almost lazy posture disappeared. His head lowered slightly. His muscles tensed, and he began to move with purpose. Where before he had seemed like a large, friendly dog, now he moved like something completely different. His steps were precise and silent. His nose worked constantly, and his eyes locked onto movement with laser focus. "Remarkable," the professor said, clearly fascinated. "Look at that focus, that coordination." Rex began quartering the room, moving in a pattern that covered every area systematically. His movements were so smooth and efficient that it was almost hypnotic to watch. On Earth, Marcus explained, wolves can track scents that are days old. They can hunt for hours without getting tired. They're built for endurance and intelligence. Wolves, Singing Wind repeated softly. That is what you call them? Yes, Canis lupus. They're pack hunters in the wild. Several students exchanged glances. Pack hunters. The theoretical concept they had been studying was standing right in front of them. Professor Kethmori was completely absorbed in watching Rex work. She moved around the center of the room, trying to get better angles to observe his behavior. Notice how he uses multiple senses, she called to the class. Smell, sight, hearing. This is much more sophisticated than our other examples. She was right. Compared to Rex, the razor moth and death swimmer looked clumsy and obvious. Rex moved with a precision and awareness that was almost alien. Professor, Zexta called nervously, should you be in the center like that? Oh. It's perfectly safe, Professor Kethmori replied, waving a hand dismissively. These are domesticated animals. They have no real predatory drive. To demonstrate her point, she began making gestures and movements to show the class different aspects of Rex's behavior. See how he responds to movement? She said, waving her arms. Rex's head snapped toward her, his yellow eyes locking onto her completely. And notice how alert he becomes when. Professor Kethmori made a sudden jumping motion, trying to show how predators react to startled prey behavior. It was exactly the wrong thing to do. Rex's entire body changed in an instant. His muscles coiled, his ears flattened against his head, and his lips pulled back to show all of his teeth. For a frozen moment, everyone in the room could see exactly what Rex really was. Not a pet. Not domesticated. A predator. And Professor Kethmori had just triggered every hunting instinct in his powerful body. Marcus, Singing Wind whispered in horror. But Marcus was already moving. Rex launched himself toward Professor Kethmori with terrifying speed. The students had spent weeks studying predator behavior in theory. Now they were seeing it in reality. And it was nothing like the slow, clumsy creatures they had been watching in holograms. Rex moved like liquid lightning. His powerful legs drove him forward with explosive force. His jaws opened, showing teeth designed to crush bone. His yellow eyes were locked onto the professor with absolute focus. Professor Kethmori's wings spread in panic. But her delicate Etherian body was not built for escape. She stumbled backward, too shocked to even scream. Rex covered the distance in less than 2 seconds. But Marcus was faster. The human moved with a speed that shocked everyone watching. One moment he was standing casually by the cage. The next, he was between Rex and the professor, the heavy leash wrapped around his arm. The impact when Rex hit the end of the leash was tremendous. The wolf's momentum was so great that it lifted Marcus off his feet. But instead of losing control, Marcus used the force, rolling with it, and redirecting Rex's energy. Rex, down! Marcus's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. It wasn't the gentle tone he used when talking to his friends. It was the voice of someone used to controlling dangerous things. Rex twisted in midair, his predator brain warring with years of training. His jaws snapped shut inches from Professor Kethmori's face. Down! Now! Marcus landed hard but kept his feet. His hands moved on the leash with practiced precision, using angles and pressure points that turned Rex's own strength against him. What happened next made the watching students question everything they thought they knew about their human friend. Marcus didn't just restrain Rex. He dominated him. The human's movements were fluid and confident. He knew exactly where to apply pressure, exactly how to position his body. He controlled Rex, not through force alone, but through understanding of pack dynamics that went deeper than any textbook. Easy, boy, Marcus said, his voice becoming calmer, but losing none of its authority. Easy. I've got you. Rex's struggles slowed. His wild yellow eyes found Marcus's face and held there. Whatever communication passed between them was older than civilization. Within 30 seconds, it was over. Rex sat quietly at Marcus's feet, panting but calm. His tail wagged slightly, as if he was pleased to have done something well. Marcus didn't release his grip on the leash. The laboratory was completely silent except for Professor Kethmori's rapid breathing. She had pressed herself against the wall, her large eyes wide with shock. I don't understand," she whispered. "He tried to. He was going to. Kill you," Marcus finished simply. "Yes. I'm sorry about that. Rex doesn't understand that you're not prey." The word prey sent chills through every alien in the room. Marcus looked at his classmates on the observation platforms. They were all staring at him with expressions he had never seen before. Fear, shock, and something else. Understanding. "You weren't controlling a pet," Zexta said slowly. "You were controlling a predator." Marcus nodded. "Rex is a wolf. A real wolf. On Earth, we call it domestication. But it's not the same thing, you understand, by that word." "But how did you stop him so quickly?" Prism asked, her crystalline voice shaking. "How did you know what to do?" Marcus was quiet for a moment, stroking Rex's head. The wolf leaned into his touch. Completely calm now. "Because I understand him," Marcus said finally. "We're not that different." The way he said it made several students step further back on their platforms. Professor Kethmori had recovered enough to speak, though she stayed pressed against the wall. "Marcus, that animal is dangerous. Incredibly dangerous. How have you been keeping it in the dormitory?" "Very carefully," Marcus replied. "Rex has never been a problem before. But you triggered his hunting instincts when you moved like prey." "Moved like prey?" the professor repeated. "Sudden movements, panic signals, running away. To Rex, that means food." The casual way Marcus discussed hunting behavior, as if he understood it from the inside, made everyone in the room deeply uncomfortable. Singing Wind floated lower, her musical voice carrying new harmonics. "Marcus, what are humans? Really?" Marcus looked up at his friends, these gentle beings from peaceful worlds who had shown him such kindness. They deserved honesty. "We're predators," he said quietly. "Apex predators. On Earth, humans are the most dangerous thing that has ever lived. But you're so..." Zexta struggled for words. "You're kind. You help with homework. You share your food." "Yes," Marcus agreed. "We're social predators. We work in groups. We take care of our pack." He gestured to all of them. "You're my pack now." The implications of that statement hung in the air. Every alien in the room was suddenly recalculating every interaction they had ever had with Marcus. His quiet movements through the corridors, his positioning near exits, his detailed knowledge of hunting tactics, his ability to control a wild predator with his bare hands. "The scratches on your arms," Prism said slowly. "You've been training with him, fighting with him." "Playing," Marcus corrected. "But yes, Rex needs to stay sharp, and I need to stay stronger than him." Professor Kethmori finally moved away from the wall, though she kept a careful distance from both Marcus and Rex. "This changes everything," she said. "I need to contact the administration immediately. That animal cannot stay in the dormitory." "Rex isn't the dangerous one," Marcus said calmly. The professor stopped. Marcus looked directly at her, and for the first time, she saw something in his eyes that matched what she had seen in Rex's. The gaze of an apex predator. "I mean," Marcus said softly, "that Rex is just an animal. He acts on instinct. But I think, I plan, I choose." He paused, still stroking the wolf's head. "And I've been choosing to be friendly." The silence that followed was deafening. Rex's tail continued to wag gently, as if nothing had happened at all. The emergency meeting was held in Professor Veltar's office that evening. Marcus sat calmly in a chair that seemed too small for his frame, while Rex lay at his feet. The wolf appeared to be sleeping, but his ears tracked every movement in the room. Professor Kethmori stood as far from Rex as possible, still shaken from the day's events. Several department heads had joined the meeting, including the station's security chief, Commander Zareth. "We need to understand exactly what we're dealing with," Professor Veltar said, his forearms folded nervously. "Marcus, please explain about your companion." Marcus scratched behind Rex's ears. "What do you want to know? Is he truly domesticated?" Commander Zareth asked. The Vortex security officer's battle-scarred carapace suggested he understood danger better than the academics. "That depends on how you define domesticated," Marcus replied. "Rex was raised by humans. He's trained to live with us, but he's still a wolf. And wolves are predators," Professor Kethmori added weakly. "Yes," Marcus nodded. "Apex predators. On Earth, wolves are what we call a keystone species. They control entire ecosystems." Professor Veltar consulted his tablet. "According to our database, Earth is classified as a death world?" Marcus winced. "That's not really fair. It's just more competitive than your worlds." "Competitive how?" Commander Zareth leaned forward with interest. "Well," Marcus thought for a moment, "almost everything on Earth evolved to either kill something else or avoid being killed. We have predators, prey, parasites, diseases, weather that can kill you, plants that can kill you." The aliens exchanged worried glances. "And humans?" Professor Veltar asked quietly. "Humans learned to kill everything else," Marcus said simply. "That's how we survived." Commander Zareth's mandibles clicked with what might have been approval. "Persistence hunters, according to your files. You ran other predators to death." "Among other things," Marcus agreed. "Humans are pretty good at finding new ways to be dangerous." "But you seem so civilized," Professor Kethmori protested. "You study literature. You help your classmates. You brought flowers to my office on Teacher Appreciation Day." Marcus smiled sadly. "Being a predator doesn't mean being evil, Professor. It just means being very good at survival. Humans learned that cooperation and kindness make us stronger as a group. But the capacity for violence is still there," Commander Zareth observed. "Yes," Marcus admitted. "It has to be. Rex isn't the only dangerous thing on Earth. If I couldn't control him, he would be a threat to everyone here." Over the next hour, the truth came out, piece by piece. Rex wasn't just any wolf. He was from a bloodline that had never been truly domesticated. Marcus had raised him from a pup using techniques that sounded more like military training than pet care. "On Earth," Marcus explained, "keeping wolves requires constant vigilance. You have to be stronger than them, smarter than them, and more dominant than them every single day. If you show weakness, they'll challenge you. And if they win that challenge," Professor Veltar asked, "they kill you," Marcus said matter-of-factly. "That's why the scratches, the training fights, the exercise sessions. Rex needs to know I'm still the alpha." The alien educators were horrified. Their idea of pet ownership involved small, gentle creatures that wanted nothing more than to please their owners. "Why would you keep such a dangerous animal?" Professor Kethmori asked. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Because he's beautiful. Because he's intelligent. Because the partnership between humans and wolves is what made us who we are." He looked down at Rex, who was now awake and watching the conversation. "And because someone has to understand him. On Earth, wolves are nearly extinct. If humans don't preserve them, they'll disappear forever." Commander Zareth made a note on his tablet. "I'll need to review your living arrangements. Security protocols need to be updated." "I understand," Marcus said. "But Rex isn't the real security concern. Explain, the commander ordered. Marcus stood up, and several aliens instinctively moved back. The human was tall by their standards, with broad shoulders and long arms. When he wasn't smiling and being friendly, he looked different. Dangerous. Earth sent me here as a cultural exchange, Marcus said. To learn about your peoples and share information about ours. But I'm also an evaluation. Evaluation of what? Professor Veltar asked. Whether your species could survive contact with humanity. The room went very quiet. You see, Marcus continued, humans have only recently developed space travel. We're new to this galaxy. Our leaders need to know if we can safely interact with other species, or if our presence would be disruptive. And what have you concluded? Commander Zareth asked carefully. Marcus looked around the room at these gentle beings who had welcomed him with such kindness. That you're wonderful, he said sincerely, and that you have no idea how dangerous the universe can be. Professor Kethmori's wings fluttered nervously. What do you mean? Your most dangerous predators are like house cats compared to Earth standards. Your military strategies assume your enemies will fight honorably and give warning. Your security systems are designed for beings who follow rules. Marcus sat back down, and Rex immediately moved closer to him. Humans don't always follow rules, he said quietly. And we're not the only predator species out there. We've detected at least 3 other civilizations that show signs of being genuine apex predators. If they find this galaxy. He didn't need to finish the sentence. Commander Zareth was taking rapid notes. What would you recommend? Partnership, Marcus said immediately. Humans can teach you to defend yourselves. We can help you understand how predator minds work. But more importantly, we can be your allies. And if we refuse? Professor Veltar asked. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then when the real monsters find you, you'll have no one to help. As if sensing the tension in the room, Rex stood and stretched. His movement was casual, but every alien present was suddenly reminded of the raw power in his body. I want you to know, Marcus said, that I've enjoyed being here more than you can imagine. You've been kind to me, accepted me, treated me as a friend. That means more than you know. Zexta's voice came through the room's intercom system. She had been listening from outside. Marcus, she said softly. Marcus smiled for the first time since the meeting began. Always. Pack loyalty is forever. Even though we're prey species? Especially because you're prey species, Marcus replied. Predators don't hunt their own pack. And you're my pack now. The meeting continued late into the night, but the fundamental truth was clear. Humans were coming to the galaxy, and they were bringing their wolves with them. Later, as Marcus walked Rex back to their room, he activated a communication device he hadn't used before. Command, this is Chen. Beginning preliminary report. A voice crackled back across the vast distances of space. Status, Marcus? Marcus looked around the peaceful station, thinking of his gentle alien friends who were probably lying awake wondering if they were safe. Contact is recommended, he said finally, but we'll need to be very careful. Understood. Continue observation. Marcus closed the channel and opened the door to his room. Rex padded inside and settled into his enclosure, looking satisfied with the day's events. You really didn't need to scare Professor Kethmori like that, Marcus said, but his tone was fond. Rex's tail wagged once, as if to say he disagreed. Marcus laughed and settled down to write his real report, the one that would determine how humanity approached this innocent galaxy full of gentle beings who thought they understood what monsters looked like. Outside his window, the stars looked different now. Less peaceful, more full of possibilities, both wonderful and terrible. The galaxy was about to change forever.